First of all, there's a lot of growth in it, right? Last year we had a growth rate in demand of 10%. This year we're projecting 7%. We've just confirmed that, right? We believe that demand is going to double in the next 10 years. Show me, there's not a lot of markets where you have that foundation, and that's very, very good. We're aluminizing one industry after the other.
But you do have to do something about the price of aluminum, and you've got to do something with the fact that there's too much of it. What happens? This growth will take care of the surplus?
It absolutely will take care of the surplus. We have an overhang in the world. I'm not telling you any news that there is a lot of volatility there, but people are pointing particularly at Europe, and that leaves a toll on the whole commodity industry, and aluminum, as being one of the most liquid ones, is also affected by that. But the general industry structure is not an unhealthy structure.
Your business does depend on two external factors. One is the price of aluminum, and generally speaking, the price of aluminum is connected to GDP growth around the world and expansion. So if you're talking about 7% demand in 2012, that's back of the envelope math, 70–80% greater than what GDP growth will be around the world. And if you're talking about 11% growth in China, about the same, probably about 70 or 80%. So aluminum growth, aluminum demand growth is much higher than GDP growth. Why?
Very simple, because we are aluminizing one industry after the other. It all lies in the fundamental capabilities of the metal. The material has some beautiful capabilities. It's strong, it's lightweight, it's recyclable, it's non-corrosive, it's easily malleable, you know, and there's a lot of characteristics. It's conductive, you know, and all of these elements work differently in different industry. We talked about the aerospace industry. And the aerospace industry last year was a very, very important year for the aluminum industry in that space, because the two big companies, Boeing and Airbus, who have an order backlog today of 8 years, unheard of, right? This is a big growth industry, right? Both have decided with their new planes, the high volume planes, the Boeing 737, as well as the Airbus A320, to have them as all aluminum planes. Big, big decision, right? But it's not the normal aluminum. It's a new aluminum alloy. It's aluminum lithium. Aluminum lithium is going to bring down the weight again by another 10%. So that's the aerospace industry, right? You go to the automotive industry. In automotive, today, it's in the Western world, it's basically all about emission fuel efficiency, right? In the past, if you wanted a fuel efficiency, you had to go for a smaller car. Consumers today don't want that. So you have choices in the segment of fuel-efficient cars. And what do they need? They need lightweighting. That's where we are coming in.
In the perfect world, you're aluminizing the world, you're getting rid of this oversupply of aluminum, and ultimately that means the price goes up a little bit. What's the magic space you need that price to be in? Because a lot of these uptakes of aluminum, the one thing you didn't mention is that it is affordable. It's an economical choice. At some point, you worry about the fact that everybody loves aluminum so much that it becomes too expensive. Do you worry about that, or is that too far in the future?
Well, I think currently that is not my worry, and I believe it's also not the worry of our customers. I mean, prices in the last quarter have dropped 9%. If you look at the last half year, 25%, you know. So prices are on a relatively low basis these days. But even if they were higher, if you compare that to the other material choices and what you get from aluminum, you still have a huge, huge positive deal.
Let's talk about this business of moving cost structures around. This virtually never is a good conversation for Americans. In one case, you are opening, you have a plant in Iowa, but you're closing others in the United States. Give me the relationship now to manufacturing in the United States. What is your view of manufacturing?
I'm extremely optimistic about manufacturing in the U.S.
And by the way, from the perspective of a German. Because that's what we have to look at.
Even from the perspective of a German, I am extremely optimistic. And maybe even because of the perspective of a German, I continue to be super optimistic for a whole host of reasons. First of all, the plant closures, I mean, that we've announced on the smelting side, they affect two places here in the U.S. that we permanently shut down. But those ones had been curtailed before, so there's no job effect involved in that. If you look at our jobs growth that we had worldwide, the majority, over the last 12 months, the majority of this was in the U.S. 1,100 jobs we created in the U.S. Why? And where did we bring them? One example I gave you already. Actually, I gave you two, but one I spelled out. The auto industry, you know. And the auto industry finally has come to an innovation model. So finally we have the U.S. automotive firms having an interest in innovation, partially driven by legislation, partially driven by emission legislation, right? But that's good. Consumer demand comes with it. That drives the right behavior.
China is slowing. India is clearly slowing. And when we in the West look at whatever, it's growth in the 6s in India, we think, boy, what we'd give to have that. And we look at growth in the 7s in China. But in those countries, it's almost recessionary. What's your thought of this slowing growth on the market?
When I hear this and see what we are seeing over in China, yes, it has been slowing down a little bit. We project a GDP growth between 7.5% to 8%, probably more on the 8% side. But as I told you before, for aluminum demand, we are pretty confident that it's going to be around 11%. This is not a bad environment, really not a bad environment.
As a global company, do you care much about the political situation in the United States? Do you worry about it?
This country has very unique capabilities. I mean, the unique capability of attracting talent, bringing the best and brightest over here, and allowing them to find a prosperous environment where they can live out their dreams. I think that's still very much alive. The technological advantage that is happening in so many fields, from biology to medicine to physics, gigantic. We've never seen that. That's the foundation that we need for growth. That foundation is very, very much there. Very, very much there. We got to be careful that at the same time, what we also need for a good economy to grow is that the financial system is stable, right? The physical world, I think, is very, very stable. All underpinnings are there. The real thing that has been a little bit destabilized is the financial side of things. And that's the thing that we have to get back in sync and then get moving. I think the U.S. has a very, very good opportunity, much better than many other places, to be advanced compared to what others are having there.